Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be proposing to you why we should not have Columbus Day. Integrity, honesty, ethical are all characteristics of the influential historical figures that we've heard about through our nation's history, which is why having Columbus Day specifically is an interesting concept. We should not have Columbus Day because he was a terrible person to the indigenous people. There's no other historical figure who has their own day besides MLK, and he did not discover America. I wrote my informative speech on Columbus and did research by fact-checking with dozens of peer-reviewed articles to cross-reference and bring the most accurate information to you. Columbus was a terrible person to the indigenous people. In February 1504, a desperate Columbus was stranded in Jamaica, abandoned by half his crew, and denied food by the islanders. The heavens that he relied on for navigation, however, would guide him safely once again. Knowing from his almanac that a lunar eclipse was coming on February 29, 1504, Columbus warned the islanders that his god was upset with their refusal of food, and the moon would rise inflamed with wrath, and as an expression of divine displeasure. On the appointed night, the eclipse darkened, the moon turned, and it turned red, and the terrified islanders offered provisions and asked Columbus to ask his God for mercy. And then I found an article where they were describing that the Columbus and his men forced their way into native settlements, slaughtering everyone they found there, including small children, old men, pregnant women, and even women who had just given birth. They hacked them to pieces, slicing open their bellies with swords, as though there were so many sheep herded into a pen. They even laid wagers on whether they could slice a man in two at a stroke or cut an individual's head from his body, then disemboweled him with a single blow of their axes. They grabbed suckling infants by the feet and ripped them from their mother's breasts, dashed them headlong against the rocks. These horrific actions Columbus perpetrated, hoping to cast doubt on his assumed role as a man of God. Under his command, he and his men murdered for sport and fed the bodies to their dogs. Sometimes victims were still alive. Columbus wrote about the demand to rape girls as young as 9 or 10. To this, I'm told that sometimes God uses bad men to fulfill his word. The opposite would argue that Columbus was doing what was necessary to keep the riches of the island for himself, since the king and queen had promised them before he left Spain that he would keep 10%. One cannot simply justify these actions for a man who has his own day in American history. Besides MLK and Columbus, there is no other historical figure who has their own day. Abraham Lincoln, I feel, is more deserving of this day because of his ability to lead the Union to a Civil War victory, issuing of the Emancipation Proclamation, and was a powerful speaker who helped put America on the path for glory. Another historical figure who I feel would be more deserving would be George Washington. George Washington led the charge during the American Revolution. He presided the convention where the Constitution was made and set a foundation for a political system that we still use today. The third person I want to make an argument for is FDR. He led America through the two biggest American crises in the 1900s, being the Great Depression and World War II. He used the New Deal to expand the powers of the federal government and was a key player in starting the United Nations. These key figures in our nation's history helped shape who we are today, including Martin Luther King. What Columbus did have his accomplishments, albeit some we have learned are not true. One of which that's not true is Columbus did not discover America. Contrary to popular belief, this is the truth, and documents that support that he never set foot in North America, not only the Caribbean islands. Leif Erikson was Norse Viking and was the first individual to discover North America. that we found to be true, and it was in the year 1000 AD. On all 4 voyages, he went to Hispaniola, Venezuela, Colombia, and Jamaica, never even touching North America. Technically, he did visit Mexico briefly on his 4th voyage, but as I said before, Leif Erikson discovered North America roughly 600 years prior, meaning Columbus should not get credit for the discovery. Columbus was not a great person whom we should not remember in our nation's history. He treated the native settlers with so much disregard it's enough to make any rational human being vomit. There are other great candidates I've given you to think about who are more deserving of their own day. He did not even discover or have a lasting impact on the nation that he has celebrated. And I'll leave you with this. Who do you believe is more deserving of this day?